Good evening,
Hi,
good evening, one and all.
good evening.
Good evening, sir. So, on behalf of Ruminate ECL Triple IT Surat, I'd like to welcome you, and we're very thankful for sharing this meeting with us, for giving us this opportunity to ask you questions. So, with that, I welcome everyone to this event on future of stock market and nuances of value investing. Well, stock market is one of the most widely discussed topic, but we as potential Indian investors always have had that love-hate relationship with stock market. People are inclined towards stock market, but कुछ misconceptions, lack of knowledge, lack of proper guidance की वजह से we are always discouraged towards investing in stock market. So with this, for this is what we are having this session for, and with that I'd like to welcome once again our guest speaker for the session today, CEO of Phenology Ventures Private Limited, Mr. Pranjal Kamra. He's a seasoned value investor, a fintech entrepreneur, an author, and an investment and finance coach who's been empowering investors by disseminating financial education through his YouTube channel, which has over 2.2 million subscribers. So before I start with the session, before I give it to Pranjal sir, I like everyone to ask all the questions, all the queries that they have. Please put them in the queries. Best out of it. So I like you to start with कि आपने कैसे सर स्टॉक मार्केट स्टार्ट किया, हाउ मतलब आपको ऐसा कैसे लगा कि नहीं यार थोड़ा इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, which were the first stocks that you picked?
Hi. Thank you so much. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk to students. In fact, this is one thing that I really like doing. So most of the speaking that I do it from my heart. If students are the ones listening to me, so I hate going to corporate events and those professional body events and things like that. I avoid that. But if it's a student event, I love that. I still think I'm a student. It's been 3 years. I'm out of college, and I really miss that life. So I think this is my way of reclaiming my student life again. So thank you for inviting me. It's absolutely a pleasure. So how did I start? Well, I was a law student doing law from National Law University, Raipur. And I figured out I'm least interested in law. That was something that just did not interest me. I was having a torrid time at my law school. So, I was looking out for something else. So one day, just my father was watching a business channel, and the talk was around stocks. And the way the host was talking about stocks, he was really aggressive, dressed up in the attire of an underworld don, and he was punching things while answering questions. So that got me hooked. And I asked my father, anyways, I'm not doing good with studies. I want to try this. So he just gave me 20,000 rupees, expecting me that I'll lose all of it and I'll back to being a law student. But fortunately, the first couple of stocks that I bought, I think the first so I bought so the day I got 20,000 rupees, I just invest all of that day. So the first order that I punched was Crompton Green. I invested 3-4 thousand rupees. It did not go anywhere for the next 2-3 years. The second order that I punched was TVS Motors, which went up 8-9 times in 10 months. And so I thought I had invested 4,000 rupees. I chose TVS Motors simply because my father had gifted me a scooter a few months back, and I was in love with it because till then I was on a bicycle. So I graduated from a bicycle to a scooter. So I loved my TVS Vigo. So out of love for my scooter, I invested 3-4 thousand rupees, and within say 10 months, it became 35,000 rupees. So after those 10 months, I thought, मैं ही हूँ भगवान, मुझे आता है सब कुछ, I know how to do it. And the next few stocks that I bought were absolutely ridiculous. I lost a lot of money the next year. And then I decided, okay, this can't work like this. I have to acknowledge that the stock that went up 8-9 times was because of luck and not my skill. So then I started reading books on investing because I felt that if it could happen one time, if I came across a stock that multiplied 8-9 times one time, I want to know the art and I want to learn the skill of making it happen again and again. So that was the trigger. And then I did my post-graduation in securities market from NISM. I completed that in 2017 and then launched my venture.
That is great to know, sir. Since we are all students here, sir, most of us have not been introduced to stock market yet. And ज़्यादातर का I have the same feeling कि ज़्यादातर का craze has been post stock market एक गहरा if you are to explain stock market to a layman, how would you do that? How would you explain it to a layman?
Right. So I'll start off by saying that that punchline of that show, risk hai to ishq hai. Please don't follow that. It's absolutely wrong. Absolutely. I mean, it sounds nice, and since it was a commercial TV series, it suits them. But don't follow that. I'll tell you why. And if I, so there's one peculiar way through which I like to explain stock market to beginners. Think of it this way: we all want to do business at some point in our life. We all want to start our own venture, startups, and we all think of doing something on our own. But what are we restricted by? We are restricted sometimes by lack of capital. I was restricted by lack of capital. I did not have any money at all. We are restricted by experience. We are restricted by a team. We are restricted by skill, knowledge, and a lot of other things. Stock market gives you that opportunity to be an entrepreneur and start your business with whatever amount you have. So no matter which business idea you have, you want to start a restaurant, a food business, a textile business, an automobile business, there is one or the other company that is listed in the stock market which is doing a similar business to what you are planning, and you can just buy shares of that company of whatever amount you have, and you suddenly become a part owner of that company. So why is it called a share market? Because you can buy a share or a stake in that company. So here is an opportunity for you. If you think you don't have the mental resources, the team, time to start a business on your own, just explore the market, find out a company that is doing similar to what you plan to do, and buy a stake in it. And think of it this way: if you invest in the stock market, you'll have legends like Ratan Tata, Adi Godrej acting as your managers and working for you. If you start your own business, you'll never be able to afford Adi Godrej or Mukesh Ambani to work for you. But stock market allows you to do that. So I just feel that everyone should use this opportunity to partner the brightest entrepreneurs in India.
Okay, so that is great, sir. This surely must have helped a lot students understand better what exactly is this all about. And so since I mentioned we all students will be having a lot of questions, so I am having Shivang who wants to ask you a question. Shivang, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, Shivang.
Hi, sir. So actually, as you mentioned, when you invested in your first stock and it rose up, many young investors who opened their Demat account in this lockdown, due to this bull rally now, whatever stock they have invested in that go up, और उसके बाद उनको feeling आती है कि अपुनिश भगवान है जैसी सर होता है. So how do you deal with this personal, psychological, and emotional level? How do you have control over this? कि कैसे हमको आगे बढ़ना चाहिए?
Shivang, I mean, out of the last 2 years that I have been doing webinars, seminars, and things like that, this is the best question that I've been asked so far. So thank you for asking this. Just the fact that you asked this question tells me that you are ready to be an investor, because most of us confuse investing to be a money multiplier mechanism where you somehow figure out the next trend, the next hot trend in the market, you invest in it, and then your money doubles. Actually, investing is very, very less about numbers. It's more about keeping your behavior in check. It's more about staying balanced. It's more about the qualitative factors. And this is why I love the stock market, because we assume it's about accounting, finance, and equity valuation. But if investing was about that, I'm sure mathematical models would have outperformed us years ago, and there would have been no need of human analysts. So investing is about qualitative aspects. And the problem here is we don't focus on qualitative aspects. Investing is about identifying whether the business in which you are betting, the management is honest or not. And the numbers will not show you that. What will show it to you? How he conducts himself during interviews, analyst calls, phone calls, things like that. Those body language signs through which we identify whether the person that we just met is capable of becoming our friend or not. Those signs, when it comes to investing, we completely ignore those signs. I see some certain managements making tall claims. We'll grow our top line 2x in the next year, things like that. So if someone is doing that personally, if someone you just met is talking to you like that मैं ना यार इस साल इतना कमाता हूँ, अगले साल मैं double कमाऊंगा, the first impression that you get of that person is, he is an overconfident guy and I better be careful of him. And let's not trust everything that he says. He has a habit of, blowing the trumpet. So it's these psychological signs, which we have all learned in our school life, college life, professional life. I think if you just focus on that, you are not attracted by those short-term glitters, trends. One thing that, another thing that where beginners lose is that they tend to follow the herd mentality. If pharma stocks are doing well, let me jump into the bandwagon. If chemical stocks are doing that, let me do that as well. So one simple discipline that I follow, it helps me keep away from all the noise and these overconfidence bias and all those psychological traps, is that I never touch anything I don't understand inside out. So if there is a business about which I am 80% sure that yes, and there are two ways. If there is a business about which I'm 80% sure that this is a great industry, this business could do well, I think 80% is not enough. That's one. Second, if there is an investor, say my mentor, say if Warren Buffett or Rakesh Jhunjhunwala come to me and say that we are betting our life savings on this particular stock and you should do it too. If they come to me privately and tell this to me, I still wouldn't do it because I don't understand it 100%. So if there's anything I don't understand 100%, I'll not bet my money on it. This simple rule helps me stay away from all those pitfalls. Think of it this way. If our friend asks, if we want to start our own business, which business are we more likely to do? Something that interests us, something whose economics we understand, or will we do something just because our friend made a lot of money and he's an engineer and I am a commerce guy and I'll try to do the same thing? If I try to be an engineer without having the knowledge of being an engineer, my probability of succeeding is low. Whereas if I have studied commerce, I understand investing in finance, and then I start a startup called Finology, which is into fintech, my probability of succeeding automatically increases. And it's the same with investing, because you are again buying businesses. So stick to buying businesses which you think you can run tomorrow, which you think you can be the CEO and run it successfully. And just this simple rule saves you from most psychological problems.
Thank you, sir, for answering this question, and that too so well, so clearly. So moving next, ऐसा रहता है कि we've seen many a times, even though charts showing opposite results, लोग कहते हैं कि इस बार कुछ अलग होगा. Yes, इस बार something better will happen. So let us wait. So sir, इस factor के बारे में आपका क्या रहना है कि how do we analyze कि what should we do currently? Should we hold? Should we stay? Should we buy? So
right.
इस बारे में what are your views on that, sir?
Right. So, I mean, this will be an extension to my previous answer. I think most questions regarding investing are automatically answered if we think of investing not as investing, but as buying or running a business. So, if you are running a business, you don't question yourself every quarter, every half year, whether to buy, whether to hold, whether to exit. If we start a business, we have conviction in the business for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And if it's doing well, we don't even think of exiting it until and unless, yes, we are getting 10 rupees for what's worth 1 rupee. We don't ordinarily keep thinking, should I exit? Should I exit? So, again, investing is buying a stake and becoming a partner in a business. And you don't exit and enter new businesses every 3 months, 6 months, or just because the inflated to a certain extent due to a bull run. When you are running your own business, all these factors are beyond you. You don't sell your home because the real estate prices have, rose. You don't sell your home. You don't sell your office. So you don't sell your business just because the prices have inflated to a certain extent.
वो Okay, sir. So, talking about this bull run, only recently the world faced one of the biggest pandemics for quite a long time, COVID-19. So, we have one more question. We have Himanshu who has a question regarding this. Himanshu, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Sir, I wanted
Hi,
to
Himanshu.
know, sir, recently during COVID, we saw that the economy around the world fell. Sir, following the trend, even though that happened, why did stock market surge? Like the BSE also, it broke all its records. So why there was a success in stock market?
Right. So there are a couple of reasons for it. One is so everything is supply demand. So one reason is that uh, Indians traditionally used to invest in gold, real estate, and things like that, which are and even FDs. So these three asset classes, FDs, interest rates have fallen drastically in the last 6 years. Interest rates have fallen from 10, 11% to 5.5%, 5%. So that's a huge reduction. It's now no more attractive. It can't beat inflation. That's one. Gold also inflated during the same phase. Real estate, I told, lack of attractive options in other asset classes, and also secondly, either people lost their jobs or
Look into all this.
students or freshers, they suddenly had a lot of free time. They were not engaged from 11 to 6 in their college life.
Why did
So
stock market surge?
all of their savings they wanted to invest, grow, and maybe and a lot of population feared that there will be job losses. So they were looking to make a quick buck in the stock market. So a lot of people suddenly started investing in the market. That's second. Another reason is market is always forward looking. Market is really smart, much smarter than we can think of. So when the market was falling in February and January is when the market discounted everything that is going to happen in the next 7-8 months. And then when the lockdown happened in late March, April, May, even parts of June, when the country was in lockdown, market had already discounted that in Feb and March. And we were wondering, why is the market rising? Because the market fell considering that this is going to happen. Only the inexperienced ones thought that there will be a lockdown for 15 days, 20 days, or a month. Market knew there will be a lockdown for 3 to 6 months. And when the lockdown kept on getting extended, market knew that unlock is nearby, and we thought there has been 3 extensions. We don't know when these extensions will end. So we were apprehensive, whereas the market was tracking the progress of vaccine development. Market was tracking the falling mortality rates. Market was tracking a lot of factors. So market is always forward looking, and I would say market was really smart. It predicted the future 6 months in advance. While the virus was entering India and while the unlock was happening, market had predicted it 6 months ago.
Sources of investing, be it FDs, be it land. I remember a line from one of your video, gold लेते हैं, पुश्तों तक pass करते हैं. So, what are the other options available for investing? And even if they're there, why should we consider stock market? Well, stock market, why should it be a priority? Why should we consider it?
Right. Again, I mean, a simple reason. It goes back to the same thing, business. So, there's one thing that excites people to becoming entrepreneurs, to doing their own business, is that if you consider a profession, say a CA, CS, lawyer, you consider a job, be it a government job or a white collar job in the biggest of MNCs, your growth is almost always capped. If you're hired at a CTC of 7 lakhs, 8 lakhs, no matter how good you are, next year, your increment maximum would be 30, 40, 50%. Right. And so there's always this cap, even if you are the best employee in the world. So, Mr. Aditya Puri, if I'm not wrong, is paid close to 100 crore rupees a year as salary. Right. Whereas he's the one who started HDFC Bank from scratch, and that bank is worth 7 lakh, 8 lakh, 9 lakh crore rupees. So although HDFC Bank is professionally owned, but if assuming it was owned by an individual. So Reliance is owned by an individual and his family. Assuming Aditya Puri was the owner, entrepreneur, or promoter of HDFC Bank, he would have been worth 6, 7, 8 lakh crore rupees. But because he is a salaried employee of HDFC Bank, I think he would be worth close to 1,500 crore rupees. And he turned out to be the best banker in the world. So the greatest thing about entrepreneurship is you reap in all the rewards. Of course, you take all the risks for it, but as reward for those risks, you reap in all the rewards, and then literally sky is the limit. So when I say sky is the limit in entrepreneurship, that by extension means why are people attracted to stocks? Because here sky is the limit to wealth creation. Be it gold, be it real estate, be it FDs, it's more like doing a job wherein everything is fixed, especially in debt instruments. If the coupon rate is 8%, you're going to get 8% per year. Gold, because it's a global commodity, prices are, mapped globally. You can't expect, magnificent returns in gold, although they are really good. And in terms of India, because of sovereign gold bond paying you 2.5% extra, it's brilliant. But that giving yourself that opportunity, giving that self your chance of creating outside wealth, of creating exponential wealth, that's only possible in the stock market. And that's why I think that if you know how to control your risk, definitely stock market is the one that can really, really make you rich.
Yes, sir. That makes it very clear why even students should start investing.
Absolutely.
Because it is a good way of being financially independent during their college time only. But since most of us lack more information regarding this, I'd like you to tell how can a normal person like us can get started with stock market, and what are the basic technicalities, what are the basic factors that one should be informed about while he makes his mind I need to start with stock market. What are the basic technicalities that they should know?
Right. So again, going back to the same answer, because I think every question in the investing world can be answered through that model. If you would like to do a business, ask yourself which are the kinds of business I would like to do, and then find similar companies in the stock market and restrict your universe to those companies. Second, say you are partnering with someone, you are looking for a partner. What questions would you ask the partner? That, okay, you are planning to run a restaurant. Why have you selected that particular locality? So, when I say locality in stock market terms, it's about the geographical market opportunities. Of course, if he or she is your friend, the credibility of that person. So even while you're selecting a stock, you need to vouch for the credibility of that person. You need to do your background checks, that who are the person in command of the company and how ethical or unethical they are. What are the legal problems, income tax problem they have faced in the past? Do they have a political background, a troubled political or a criminal background, things like that. What's the next thing you will look when you're investing in your friend's restaurant business? What's your business model? Like, how do you plan to differentiate yourself from other restaurants or cafes in your locality? You ask the same question to the company. I mean, the company will not answer you directly, but you'll get those answers either directly or indirectly in the annual report, con call, investor presentations, quarterly results, that how is the company differentiating or plans to differentiate itself from its competitors. That's important. You would ask your friend that, how much you earn, how much you invest every month, what are your recurring expenses running the restaurant, and how much do you earn every month, how much do you save. You do the same things. You read the financial statements of a company, you check out the balance sheet, you check out the profit and loss statement, and you figure out how much money has been invested in the business, what are its monthly revenue, annual revenues, what are its costs, and what is the profit it's making. What is the next set of question you would ask? The next question you would ask is, what is your future vision with the business? Again, you will find those answers in the annual report. So exactly the sort of questions what you will ask your relative or friend when you are partnering or investing in their business, the same set of questions you need to have in mind And then you need to look out for answers for companies that you understand. If you don't find those answers, no problem. Ignore those companies, because there are 5,000 companies. I'm sure there are around 50 to 100 companies, because we are all 12th pass students here. So there are more than 100 companies which all of us will understand completely. And out of those 100 companies, how many do you need in your portfolio? Maybe 10, 15, 20. All of us can find those 10, 15, 20 companies. So don't feel restricted. Don't feel that if I follow this rule so diligently, I won't end up with any stocks. You just need a dozen stocks. I think a fifth pass student can identify a dozen stocks that he understands completely.
Regarding this, we completely need to be aware about the company that we are going to buy an ownership into. But apart from that, there are also many factors like government policies, budget, geopolitical situations. So what are the situations that you feel one should be aware of, one should be continuously updated about while investing, while trading?
So I don't do trading, so I cannot answer that for trading at all. Maybe macros are important for trading, but as an investor, as a long-term investor, honestly speaking, I don't care about macros at all. I don't listen to what RBI is doing. I don't care what the government is doing. I don't understand, and I don't want to understand, and I don't spend my time trying to predict what these macro institutions are doing, because one, they always end up surprising you. They end up surprising even the biggest of economists. When certain policy changes happen, there are interviews of these economists and former governors saying how shocked they are. So if these institutions can shock the brightest economists in the world, I think it's futile for us to try and predict that. I think what's more important, when you run a restaurant, you don't worry about these macros, right? If you start your own, when I started Phinology, I don't worry about these regulations. Because first, you cannot predict it. Second, if in case they end up impacting you, most businesses find a way out dealing with them. Most businesses found out a way dealing with COVID, and this is probably the biggest thing that affected everyone, all industries pervasively, and this is probably the biggest thing after World War II that had such an impact in the world. And yet, I don't see too many listed companies in the stock market failing or going bankrupt because of this. They found out a way to survive through this. So, and this is COVID we are talking about. And I'm sure no government change, no political change, no policy change, no RBI policy change can have an impact as big as COVID had. And thereby, I find that for 99% of the changes, companies find out a way to deal with it. Secondly, no matter which company you are, 99% of policy changes don't affect you. Only that 1% of political or policy change that is directly related to your industry affects you. And even in that 1%, there's a 50-50 chance it affects you positively or negatively. So there is a 0.5% chance that out of thousands of policy changes happening every day, a 0.5% chance that one policy could affect you negatively. I think if you are in a business, you just have to live with that risk and not think too much about it.
Regarding how the conversation started about the difference between the investors and traders. So what is the fundamental difference in their mindset? What is the difference in their approach towards the market?
So, there's one, there's one basic difference is that traders view the stock market as a source of earning regular income from the market. Investors understand that because of the volatile nature of the stock market, to assume that you can take out a regular return is very, very difficult. So for investors, it's a source of passive income. You earn from something else, and then whatever your surplus income is, you park it in the stock market because you think it's the best parking option for your investment compared to all other asset classes. And whether my stocks move up or not for the next 2 years, 5 years, I don't care, because my monthly expenses are not dependent on what the stock market gives me. Anything that the stock market gives me is actually a bonus, does actually help me meet my goals earlier, and it's basically a way to create wealth and not run my house and its expenses monthly. So I think that's the basic difference. If traders also had a mindset wherein they don't care about how much wealth they make in a year or two, I think all of them would be investors as well. It's because that it's important for them to try and create wealth every week, every month, is the reason why they are traders.
So with this basic difference, most of the students will be starting with a small amount. So regarding the term of investment, we have a question from Avnish. So Avnish, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Avnish here. My question is, should we invest in long term or short term in stock market? Am I audible?
Right. Now you are audible. Yeah, I got your question. Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, sorry.
So should we
Go ahead.
invest in? Yeah. Should we invest in long term or short term in the stock market? And should we
Right.
invest in market itself or in a particular company, or a particular stock?
Right.
How
right.
to differentiate that in what we are investing actually?
Right. So I mean, as I told, investing is investing in a business, and I don't see anyone invest in a business for short term. If we are becoming a partner in a business, at least the mindset is that I am investing my money in this business. I am becoming a partner in my friend's business because I hope this business will do well, and every year we'll grow, and in 10 years we'll be the giant. That's what the basic mindset is whenever we are investing in a business. Similarly, when you're investing in stocks, you're investing in a business, and these businesses cannot grow overnight. It cannot happen that HUL is earning X amount a month this month and it will double to 2X a month next month. This is not going to happen. And if this is not going to happen on most occasions, it's unlikely that your stocks will double overnight. It will happen sometimes for various reasons. For reasons like the stock was undervalued and market discovered its value. For reasons like it's granted a patent. For reasons like its competitor went bankrupt, a regulation change. It will happen, but you cannot plan for those things. You have to assume that in whichever company I'm investing, hopefully that company will grow its profits by 15 to 20% each year. And if that happens, I'm happy. Of course, if you pick 15, 20 such companies in your portfolio, you will get windfall gains in sometimes wherein something will happen that's much better than your expectation. These things will happen, but you cannot depend on those things. And because most businesses most of the times take a lot of time to organically grow their profits, you need to be partners in that business, in their journey. And because that journey is slow, you have to give it time for 3 years, 5 years, maybe more. So for me, investing is long term. I have never invested with the mindset of gaining short-term profits.
Thank you for answering that too, sir. And about that, we have a question from Khushdeep Mittal. He's asking, sir, since the market is already at the top and a lot of stocks are currently valued higher than their intrinsic values, so for an early stage investors like us, is it the right time to start investing, or should we wait for the market to correct itself and get back to their normal intrinsic values?
Right. I mean, I think as individual investors, we don't really need to worry a lot about these things because, these things, because as beginners, firstly, our portfolio is not huge. Secondly, the thing is, if you have a portfolio of companies that you understand, it will be from a couple of sectors or 3 sectors or 4 sectors, because most of us cannot understand all those sectors. So just focusing on the sectors you understand is enough. And market timing is important for someone who has a lesser potential of future cash flow. Say a person who is 60 years old, freshly retired, and he is looking to invest money in the stock market. Firstly, he shouldn't to a large extent, but if he is investing in the stock market, all his cash flows are past cash flows. He earned in his life, and now he'll not be earning in the future. So for him, timing is extremely critical, because if he enters the market now and the market falls, he does not have future cash flows to average out those stocks in the future. But for someone like us who are just getting started and our past cash flows are not much, all of us have not earned much in the past, all our earnings will come in the future. So even if you invest today in some stocks and you find out that after a year that stock is down 30% or 40%, after 1 year, you will have more cash to invest in that company. So because all our cash is in the future as youngsters, I don't think we as youngsters should be worried about what levels the market are at, because most of us will always have money 1 year, 2 year down the line to be able to average out those stocks.
Fees and all that. So how do you think this has affected people investing in stock market, and how do you think this can take the future of stock market?
So I think it's not about discount brokers. I think it's about technology. Technology has disrupted any other vertical. Food delivery is one, e-commerce is one, so OTT is one. So technology does two things basically. One, it brings in more convenience for the customers, and secondly, it drives the prices down because a lot of processes are not now online, automated. So those two things have happened. Investing has become much more convenient, and investing has become much more affordable. Brokerage rates are at an all-time low, but I don't think discount brokerage is to be credited. I think technology is to be credited. If it was possible 2 decades ago, I'm sure there would have been a discount broker 2 decades ago. The fact that the first discount broker came up in India 8, 9, 10 years ago is because of technology. That only 8, 9 years ago did technology advance so much to allow a discount brokers and then be able to run their business at such a cost structure that they can do a 90% reduction in brokerage. So I think, yes, technology has made it more democratic. Now more and more people can start investing instantly with no paperwork, and most accounts get opened in 2 days. And without moving out of your home, you can start investing. So this is exciting, and I think and with the amount of demat accounts opening, so this is interesting. So we saw how youngsters are accepting and reading more and more about investing and wanting to invest more. So we saw this trend during lockdown, and that is what made us launch our new product. We launched it a couple of months ago. It's called Select by Finology, wherein we provide all the brokerage comparison for India's top brokers. We provide offers, discounts, and some goodies for you to start investing. So this happened because of COVID. We were never thinking of this product, but we found out the number of first-time investors that are trying to invest, and because of which Select by Finology happened. And I'm sure, a lot of you students would love it. Yeah.
Sir, regarding Select by Finology, I'd also like you to tell about Ticker.
Right.
That is also a product of Finology, and how it can help us. And in that context only, we have a question from Himanshu Goyal. How can we make diversified portfolios? How to divide percentage of our amount of our pocket money, of our income, to make a diversified portfolio?
So there are some basic thumb rules. First, only invest money in the market that you can afford to lose. So, if you think I get pocket money of 5,000 rupees, 3,000, 2,000 rupees, and out of that, if I lose 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees, it does not really matter. Then that 500 or 1,000 rupees is the amount that you should be investing every month. Any amount that if you lose, you wouldn't feel guilty. That's the right amount for you to invest every month. Apart from that, I follow one simple thumb rule, and that is that never in one company do I invest more than 8-9% of my total corpus. That's one discipline I follow. Never in one sector I invest more than 20% of my corpus. So that way, my portfolio will always have a minimum of 12-13 stocks, because in one company I'm only investing 8%. That way, I'll always have exposure to at least 5 sectors, because exposure to one sector is limited to 20%. Minimum investment in a company for me has to be 3-4%, so that it's significant enough if the stock does well. So this means that I'll never have more than 25-27 stocks, because minimum exposure is 3-4%. So yeah, these are some basic rules that I follow, and yeah, that's about it.
So please tell us about Ticker and how it can help us.
So, so Ticker, so I am investing now since 7-8 years, and I was always looking for data on companies, kind of things I told you, that what is the background of the promoter, what is the NPA of this bank, what is the background of this bank, what are all the ratios of this bank, what are the things I need to look, where is the con call, where is the investor presentation, what are other brokerages, other analysts saying about this bank, how do I compare two banks, ratios of two banks, and figure out which bank is doing well. And the tools that existed, primarily say Money Control, Screener, and then of course when I had a team, we felt there are a lot of things which could be improved, and the data points were very, very less. I cannot completely make my analysis based on the existing tools. So we launched Ticker by Finology a year ago. It took 1.5 years of hard work. Everything that we had earned went into Ticker, and it's heartwarming to see the response we are getting. We are already number 3 in India in these products, and it's just not even been a year. It'll be a year next month. So what Ticker does and how it's different is, firstly, it customizes the ratios according to industry. We are the only tool in India that does that. So if you're looking at a banking stock, you need to look at certain different things, like what is the NPA, what is the CASA ratio. Whereas if you're looking for an IT company or a pharma company or an FMCG company, the ratios, the data that you need to research is completely different. So we have customized data according to these industries, which no one in India has. Secondly, I don't think we are competing with Money Control, Screener, or any other alternative. I think we are competing with Excel. Because, specifically in colleges, I see these equity valuations or finance calculations being done in an Excel, which I think is really 20th century, not 21st century, really outdated. I think, ultimately most financial calculations, most equity valuations should happen at a click of a button, and you don't need to understand the complex compound ratios to be able to do that. I think it should be done by a computer at the back end. And so we have built in all kinds of valuation tools on Ticker, wherein, if you just open the calculator, all companies have built-in calculators on Ticker. If you go to Asian Paints, it has a built-in calculator, wherein it automatically tells you that which is the price at which you should buy the stock, and whether it's overvalued or undervalued based on your assumptions. And if you can't assume certain factors, it also has built-in hints for you to in a way to nudge you that, okay, in this calculator, you input this field and then check if the stock is undervalued or overvalued. So I think it's the first tool in India that also tells you if the stock is undervalued or overvalued, and a lot of other features. And yeah, I mean, this is one tool that really makes us proud as a team.
Thank you, sir. This surely sounds like a great tool. It will reduce the inertia even more for beginners like us. And there's a fun announcement for everyone. The prize that we mentioned about at the beginning of the session for the top 3 questions would be 3 one-year subscriptions for Ticker. So we are now nearing the end. So please post your questions. And coming back to the session, sir, talking about current trends, what are your views on cryptocurrency, sir? It has suddenly taken the whole world by storm. A lot of big people like Elon Musk tweeting about stuff, and prices surging to an all-time high, be it Bitcoin, be it Ethereum. So what are your views on cryptocurrencies, sir? And how can it replace stock market in future?
So, again, it leads me back to a question that Shivang asked me, that how do you keep yourself in check? One core principle to keeping yourself in check is recognizing, accepting, and being humble about what you don't know. I don't know about cryptos. I somehow I have never been really excited about trying to know what it is, and that's the reason I don't know much about crypto. And I'm not ashamed to tell you that I don't know what it will do, what its future will be. And right now, maybe I don't have the time or the energy, or maybe just the willingness to learn about it. Can it replace the stock market? No. See, these are completely different things. Stock market gives you a chance to be a partner in a business. Cryptocurrency is basically a new way, a digital only and a discrete way to transact. Can a concept that is basically around transacting digitally and discreetly overrun a concept that allows you to be partners in a business? I think these are two completely different things, and I don't think one is in threat because of other. No, I think these are completely different things.
Thank you, sir. So after so many questions, a lot of things that we got to learn from you. So we have Shivang with the one question that all of us must be having for now. So Shivang, please ask the question.
Once again, I and lots of people here want to become the next Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, or maybe the first Shivank, or first Harsh, or first Suraj, the virtuosos of stock market. How can we do that? Can we do that by reading the books which is lying behind you? Can we do that with investing and learning from stock market? Or how can we do that? Just show us the path that we are novice. We don't know everything about the market now, but we want to get there. Some people here want to make, as you mentioned, that make stock market as a side income. You just use it to park your money. But some people are there who want to make it their profession. So what is your suggestions for them? And adding to that, what are your most beloved learning resources, sir, in the history of last, experience of last 20 years? What were your most learning favorite resources, mentors, and all?
Right. So now one thing that I can definitely answer is these books will not help you, mostly legal books. So this is our legal video room. So this will definitely not help you. I think books, yes, definitely yes. I mean, most of what I know is because of books. But are those investing or finance books? No. I mean, investing books get repetitive very soon. Once you read a couple of books, 4 books, 5 books, you'll be amazed. But from the 6th book onwards, you'll find that the same thing is being repeated. So, and basically most investing books are basically toned down or a light version of academic books that we read. So not really investing books. I think so which are the kinds of books that have helped me the most become an investor? I think it's book on entrepreneurship, because then you think like the business owner. Think of it this way. You're analyzing a company, and you see that he had promised something in the last year's annual report, and this year he has not been able to execute it. If you have only read investing books, you would say, this guy is a bad executor, I wouldn't invest. But if you have read investing books or you have done your own business, maybe you will be willing to be more patient with that person, because now you understand the struggles that businesses go through. Now you understand every day the kind of dynamic world with which an entrepreneur struggles with. And maybe then you have the mental model to differentiate that which delay is excusable and which delay is not excusable. So, only when you have read a lot of books on entrepreneurship can you make more sense of these investing related documents. That's one. Psychology, a lot of books on psychology, that helps a lot because, ultimately investing once. So, I've always believed that across verticals. It's not just about sports. It's not just about investing. Even in sports, music, art. Uh, so Sachin Tendulkar was not the best cricketer because he had the best technique or maybe had some brilliant way to touch bat to ball. That's not why he was one of the greatest cricketers. He was one of the greatest cricketers because he knew the basics of cricket and then he had the best temperament. If Sehwag could be as successful as Tendulkar, Dravid, Dhoni, cricketers will absolutely different techniques. I think it's evidence enough for us to understand that after you know the basics of cricket and you get the hang of it, that when the ball comes, this is the amount of time in which you have to react. Once you are done with that, then it's about temperament. It's about not giving into pressure. It's about not trying to needlessly hit the ball in the air. So ultimately, how successful or unsuccessful you are depends on your mindset, your temperament. So a lot of books on mental conditioning, on making you aware of more and more mental models. I think that helps a lot. Investing, once you know the basics, I think, the problem with us is that most of us is that we lack mental models. And to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So to an engineer, he or she thinks everything can be solved through engineering. To a lawyer, in law school, almost every solution to a problem was case file kar dete hain. And it's the same with every profession. They think they can solve all the problems of the world through their profession. So I think if you have the ability to think like multiple professionals and not just engineers, I think you have a huge edge to 99% of humanity. So if you are able to think like a lawyer, like a finance professional, like a doctor, like an engineer, I think you are set to be a great, great investor.
So that was about most of the questions that we had, sir. I have one final question before we end, but before that, there are a few questions from the audience that I'd like to put forward. One question is here we have from Kaleshwar Dubey, sir. He's asking, what is the effect of privatization in the government sector on the share market?
Right. So, I mean, in the short run, the effect that we are seeing is because some government companies are being privatized. The other government companies have ran up in the expectation of being privatized. So yeah, that's the short-term effect. Logically, generally saying, I like this concept of privatization because I think government is not meant to do business. I think the purpose of the government is to ensure that our fundamental rights are intact and we are protected from the outside enemies. That's the basic purpose of government. The government is not supposed to run a fertilizer factory, an airline, a telecom company. I think we never. So as per this. So there are various nation theories in jurisprudence, and according to almost all the theories, we never surrendered our liberty to the sovereign authority of a nation because we wanted them to run a fertilizer or an airline company. We surrendered our liberty to the sovereign authority of the nation because we wanted to be protected. So I think the government should do that, and everything else should be done by the private players. Even if we go back to certain, empirical evidences, we know that Indigo is better managed than Air India. We know that BSNL is much worse than Airtel. So everything that a private body does is generally better in business compared to a government body. So yeah, I mean, in general, I really like this.
There is one question from Daksh Kochar, sir. This has been in my mind as well. If there are people with a lot of money who can actually impact the market, be it bulls or bears, how is it a fair playing ground for people like us, for small retail investors, for students, for a lot of people investing or trading in stock market? So playing ground for all of us.
It's unfair, it's biased, but what's the good news? It's unfair to them and it's biased towards you. I think retail investors have all kinds of advantages. First, to answer your question, can these big players with big money, decide the direction of the market? Yes, they can. In general, they can decide the direction of the market. But if you picked a company whose share was 100 rupees, and in the next 5 years, the profits of that company doubled by, say, 10x, there's no way, there's no amount of power, there's no amount of money that can stop that share from rising substantially as well. So if you choose a business and over the years that business does really, really well, I think no one can stop that company share price to increase substantially as well. Yes, if your horizon is short term, it's unfavorable to you. But in the long run, no one, in the long run, the better the company does, the better the share price moves. So it depends on the execution of the government. Now I'll tell you why it's, biased towards you. If someone is sitting on 5,000 crore rupees, to allocate those 5,000 crore rupees judiciously is much, much more difficult than to allocate 5 lakh rupees or 50,000 rupees. You can invest in any micro cap, any small cap without worrying about liquidity. You will be buying a few hundred shares. You will never be worried that if I want to exit, will I get the exit? But if a mutual fund or these, big investors, they want to invest 5,000 crore rupees, they have to first, their investable universe is limited to 500 companies. Your investable universe is limited to 5,000 companies. They cannot invest in small caps or micro caps because first, they'll not get the quantity to buy. And if they get it, whenever they try to exit, the stock will go into a lower circuit and they'll not get a chance to exit. So because of that, we find that the top 200 companies, they have a lot of research, they have a lot of analysts, business channels track them. But mid caps, small caps, micro caps are not tracked by these big investors because it's just too insignificant to them to even look at that sector. It wouldn't move a needle to them. So I think you have more options and you have the advantage.
So, sir, towards the end, there are a lot of questions from people all around the same thing. For students, would you suggest intraday trading or long-term investment, or to start with? So, to sum it all, sir, at the end, what would be your final advice, your financial planning for the students out there? So, please, sir, if you could tell us about your final suggestion about how we can proceed.
Yeah. So
with investment.
So we have all, at some stages of our life, specifically childhood, used a piggy bank. So the stock market as a piggy bank for adults, a piggy bank that never gets full, a piggy bank that has unlimited capacity to take coins and just keep investing money and forget. And you'll only be able to do this if you invest money that you don't need for your monthly expenses, that you don't need in the short term. So just think of it as a piggy bank and keep investing money and just don't worry about anything else.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. This was indeed a very, very good session. One of the most practical sessions that I have seen. I keep reading about stock market on and off, but I completely loved how with simplicity you explained all the topics here. So before we end, sir, I'd like to congratulate you about your latest new book, Money Mint. And also I'd like to tell everyone that there are 2 books that written, that is Investonomy and Money Mint, sir. So before we end, sir, would you like to give a hint about what these books have and have in store for us, so students here can go about choosing one or both in the
So Investonomy, when I was reading about stocks, I was reading books on stocks. There was a couple of problems I faced. One was there were hardly any good books on fundamental analysis or long-term investing by Indian authors. And the problem with American or European authors is that the examples that they give you don't relate to those examples because you don't even know the names of those companies that they are mentioning. So you don't relate to those examples. And there are certain things like the taxation component, the regulatory, the transaction, the policy, all the macros. They use examples of the macro conditions in their country, which don't apply to the Indian context. So these were 2 reasons why I thought there should be one book that suits all stock market beginners. And that one book, after reading that one book, all those basics are clear and they feel confident and mentally ready to be able to invest. So for this reason, I wrote Investonomy. And the second book, Mint Your Money, just launched a week back. So that is on personal finance. So investing in stocks is one part of your financial planning, but you need to get your tax planning right, mutual fund investment right, real estate, gold, insurance, savings, emergency funds, goal planning right. So even if you don't want to invest in stocks, how do you plan your future? How do you plan your wealth so that you end up meeting your goals? So Mint Your Money is focused on personal finance for beginners, and Investonomy is focused on stock market investing for beginners.
Thanks a lot, sir. I hope a lot of students will now be more interested, and not just interested, more informed about stock market and investing. So just before we end, just before we bid you adieu, sir, I would like you to pick the best 3 questions that you had today, so that we can give away the subscription to those. So
One was definitely Shivang's first question. But I don't remember the other questions. I mean, I was too lost answering those, or maybe enjoying
issues,
the question. So I don't
issues,
remember the other questions.
But I like to thank you on behalf of ECEL IIIT Surat and all the students here from various colleges across the country, and we'd love to have you again in our future sessions. And we look forward to you, sir. And there's a lot of things to learn, and we'll try and learn as much as we can and be actually financially independent soon.
Pleasure. It was great. Thank you.
Just before I end, I think Shivang has one more question, if that's okay. Yes, Shivang.
So while getting the questions, I just had 2 more questions I had to ask, although not related to stock market. But number 1, in your history, what have you learned? What is the आपकी जिंदगी में आपने क्या सीखा है, sir? Top 3 wisdom nuggets जो you would like to propagate to your your juniors, because we here are people from 20 from 18 to 22, and we are having almost 60 years of lives ahead of us, and you are already covered a lot. So number 1, वो कैसे क्या, what are your top 3 wisdom nuggets? Number 2, यहाँ पर से कुछ लोग पूछते हैं कि हमको बिल्कुल थोड़ा समझ में आता है, हम पढ़ते हैं सब कुछ, लेकिन पापा को या घर के कैसे बनाए हमको स्टॉक मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए. तो जस्ट दीस क्वेश्चंस.
Right. So firstly, when you ask me my life learning, you make me feel really old. So I'm 27. I'm also learning a lot. Still early days. So don't make me feel old. But having said that, one change that I see myself mentally in the last 4-5 years is that as youngsters, hot-blooded college-going youngsters, I think we have this mentality of, whatever small achievements we have, say we won say winning say, I don't know what kind of competitions IIITs have, but we had moot court competitions, MUNs and things like that. And, winning those were your ultimate achievements, or maybe, topping the class and things like that. And, if you continuously did that, suddenly this sense of entitlement comes into a lot of us, wherein you think that, whatever you have achieved, you deserved it. But, this sounds really depressing, but the hard reality is a lot of what we achieve and a lot of problems that we face, both ways, the good things that happen in our life and the bad things that happen in our life, a lot of that happens due to chance, due to randomness. I wouldn't call it luck, but due to chance or randomness. If every year 10 lakh Indians die because of road accidents out of 140 crore people, those 10 lakh people will die. I mean, with infrastructure improving, car safety improving, maybe that 10 lakh will decrease to 8 lakh, but still 8 lakh people unfortunately would die. It's not to say that those 8 lakh people were unlucky. The honest reality is that it's randomness and chance, because that has to happen. So, sometimes we are at the receiving end of chance and randomness, and sometimes we are benefited by it. And, running a business and being an entrepreneur teaches me one thing, that ultimately be humble in whatever you have achieved. And if you feel that injustice is being happening to you, don't assume that you are the center of the universe. We get into self pity when you assume that the world revolves around us. We have to understand that in the 10,000 years of history of humanity, we live for 80 years, and even in these 80 years, which is nothing in the 10,000 years of history, we are one amongst 800 crore people living on the earth, and this is just humans. There are animals, there are plants, and all of them go through lucky and unlucky encounters. So it's important that you don't go into self pity if something bad happens to you, and you don't become arrogant if something good happens to you. Just because and also one last thing, just because you're doing hard work does not mean you deserve success. A lot of people do hard work all the time. Hard work is just one of the ingredients that's important, but how smart you are, just my personal experience. I started YouTube in 2017, and in the second half of 2016, Geo came in. Suddenly 2016-17 was the time when a lot of people could actually afford to watch videos on their mobile phone, and that was the time when I graduated. So if I say that I have a substantial following in YouTube because I make brilliant videos, that's given. I mean, that's an essential, definitely. But there are a lot of hundreds of other people. Maybe they are making better videos than I am. Maybe they started in 2013 and gave up by 2017, or maybe they started in 2020 when there was already too much competition. And I can't credit myself for starting in 2017, right? My education completed in 2017, so by extension, I started in 2017. So even the starting year was not my intelligence. So a lot of that happens due to chance, randomness. Never take your success or failures too seriously. The bright side, I know this was a little sad, but the brightest thing is, and which I think overshadows all randomness or all bad luck that you will encounter in life, is that you have unlimited tries in life, you have unlimited dice rolls in life, and you just need to be successful once. If you're playing a game of Ludo, life is a game of Ludo where you can throw the dice unlimited time, and just need a 6-1. So, and you win the game. So, life is stacked in your favor.
Really insightful, sir. Really grateful. These are the words which will help us in the longer run. So these are the best key takeaways for me from this event. Thanks a ton.
Thank you for asking a great question.
Thanks a lot.
Maybe give him 2 years of subscription.
Sure.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. We look forward to more events with you, sir.
Pleasure. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir. Thank you.